I am a clinical psychologist which is a wonderful profession that I really loved, but I took a sharp left turn and started the Climate Psychologist, and then I founded and am the director of the organization, the Climate Mobilization, here in the United States. And the approach I would like to advocate today is the same approach that the Climate Mobilization has been built on, and it's a psychologically based approach, and it's in some ways very simple, and in some ways it's extremely revolutionary. And okay, so step one of this psychological approach is to tell the truth about the scale of the problem and the scale and urgency of the necessary solution. I should actually say, just since we're telling the truth, to tell the truth about the scale of the existential crisis, right? Even calling it a problem, come on. So step one is to tell the truth and advocate for a solution that could actually protect humanity and the living world. And then the next step is to act like that truth is real. Or in other words, I talk about entering emergency mode. And then finally, it's just recruiting others, finding champions to join you in this truth and in this emergency mode response to it. And this is the Climate Mobilization has taken on different types of programming, different tactics. We've worked at the national level, we've worked at the local level, we work with government, we work outside government, but this basic approach of telling the truth and advocating for what's actually necessary has proved really successful, though obviously there's still a lot to be done. And I'll get into that, but I do just want to mention that I don't know exactly what is the reason, but it is very clear that Australia and a group of Australians is really critical in this approach to talking about, thinking about, and responding to the climate crisis. Okay, so to the first point of tell the truth. So first of all, this sounds really obvious, right? Like this, it sounds like something that you would say to a child, tell the truth. But it unfortunately isn't that kind of basic moral sense, let's say, has really gotten eroded in the climate movement through decades of ideas like you can't tell people the truth, they can't handle it, you can't make people afraid, keep it sunny. David Spratt calls this bright siding. Yeah, keep it sunny. Talk about solutions and optimism. And so, in order to kind of maintain this cheerfulness, which is not at all in accordance with what science is telling us is happening with the climate, the climate movement has really had to do some contortions of what is actually real and what they're calling for, and how they talk about it. So I wrote a paper called The Transformative Power of Climate Truth, which talks about some of the key reasons why the truth is not optional in the climate fight. And so, coming from my professional experience, confronting difficult truths is a healing and experience. It's a crucible for psychological growth that, you we cannot solve a problem that we can't face. That's something that's true in personal life as well as true in our society. And then also, when you look at social movements throughout history that have been successful, telling the truth and fighting denial have been just absolutely core to winning strategies. So yeah, so when I just say tell the truth, I mean, like I said, it's different from oh yeah, climate change is real, or I believe in climate change. That's really not enough. That's really only getting a small part of the way there. The truth I'm talking about is that climate change poses an acute existential risk to all of humanity and all of the living world, that it threatens us collectively and each of us personally, that this is happening right now, that we are in danger now, and that we need, as a response, that we need not gradualism, not market-based tweaks, but we need to go into emergency mode and put everything that we have as a society, all available resources, financial, personal, human resources, technological. We need to pull out all of the stops to not reduce emissions, but to get to zero emissions and to draw down excess greenhouse gases until a safe climate is restored. And we use the example of World War II scale climate mobilization, or the example of what the United States accomplished during World War II, in which we transformed our economy in just a few years to meet an existential threat. So when you don't tell the truth about how bad is the crisis and what is the necessary solution, a phenomenon occurs called pluralistic ignorance, which is, I think, very important to understand, also known as the bystander effect, or the urban bystander effect. If you're at, let's say, a busy, in New York, you're in the subway, a crowded subway station, and you see someone on the ground. Is it an emergency? How do you know? Is this person having a stroke or a heart attack, or are they taking a nap, or are they drunk, or what's going on, and do you have to intervene and do something? And what studies show is that if you have more people around, then the person in question is actually less likely to receive help, because each person is looking at the others and saying, well, that person is acting normal and that person is acting normal, and he's not acting like it's an emergency and she's not acting like it's an emergency, so it must not be, right? Looking around, seeing how other people are responding to the threat and saying, well, I'm not going to be the one person to make a big deal of this, right? And that pluralistic ignorance is happening on the very large scale, whereas our whole society is kind of acting normal rather than confronting the fact that we are in terrible danger. And we can disrupt this so effectively.
Just 30 seconds, sorry.
Okay.
You've got that early morning thing, so I'm giving you a time dilation. You've got another minute. Yeah.
All right. So we tell the truth, and then the second part is acting like that truth is real. Okay, so it is not enough to just know how bad the situation is. We have to find ways of effectively communicating this or showing this. So, Extinction Rebellion and the civil disobedience, where people put themselves on the line. The school strikes is an example of this also, where you're demonstrating the strength of your commitment. Some other tactics that are going on is more than 40 cities in the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada have now officially declared a climate emergency and commit to emergency climate mobilization. which is a pretty cool governmental statement of climate truth. And then I also just am extremely excited. We had a huge breakthrough in the United States yesterday, in which 60 members of the House of Representatives and 9 senators joined Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in calling for a World War II scale climate mobilization that will bring the United States to zero emissions in 10 years.
Wow.
It's honestly a huge breakthrough. And so I think that we really have seen through, the climate mobilization is a really small organization, but we have really seen that when you can leverage that the truth has in itself inherent power. So the idea of, we have a huge crisis, it needs a huge solution, but we can do it, we've done it before, that we really have been able to transform the climate debate. It's happening very fast, but we have been able to do that here, and I think we can do it everywhere.
Woohoo!